Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my reaction video. Yeah, I do a larger spread. And these days, I am in the middle of my deep dive into the Lenormand system. So I've got a large Lenormand-based spread that I do earlier in the week. And then I record this video with a different spread to help me get a more central message, a more crystallized message perhaps, or maybe another layer of information to the larger spread that I read earlier in the week. And the deck that I'm using for that spread, the larger Lenormand spread, is a creation by Malpertius. The creators of the Tildwick Tarot. And so I decided to pull out my Tildwick Tarot to do the response video. And I might actually continue using the Tildwick for the rest of this lunar cycle. I'm bouncing that idea around in my head right now. I think I will, just for fun. Because I don't get to play with the deck enough, and I love the deck. So if you want this deck, well, I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So I'm getting way ahead of myself, friends. So this is a reaction spread. And because it is that, I highly recommend that you go and watch the larger video that I recorded earlier this week first before you come back here. Because I'm going to be reading these cards in reaction to that, and knowing the context helps. So I'll put a card up here so you can hop on over and watch that video and then come back here. And you don't have to watch that video in one sitting. You can read it, watch it in bits and pieces, yeah? And just in case you did do that, just in case you did watch it in bits and pieces and it's been a couple of days and you want a quick refresher, let me remind you that the title of that video was It's All About You, and that was because the significator card in the center of the spread ended up being the man card, and I read that spread through me for all of us. So the central card was all about us. And the spread seemed to be pointing a finger at us about our being attached to the notion of the path of our moving with intention being a direct line. Now, a direct path from point A to point B. Yeah, and then the reality being that it's a windy path and it takes time. Most of the time. And are feeling the burden of all of that. And wanting direction. Right? Of course, we had a very positive, I think, direction that we're going in. Called to make some choices about that, but we've got a very positive direction that we are moving in, but right now things are kind of heavy and things are kind of uncomfortable. Right? So friends, let's see if that's true. Let's see if that information is accurate. Or let's see if we've got some advice. So, what I'm going to do is first thank you. I'd love to thank you for all of the things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button, for subscribing, for commenting in the comments below, for dropping comments. All of those things help our community. So thank you for doing those things. Very much thank you. And if you want a private reading from me, my online tarot shop has a web address and a QR code, and those things will pop up right before your eyes at the end of this video. Okay? So friends, let me do a couple of things. First, I will show you the spread for this week. And then we will talk about the decks and the spread itself. And then we'll break the spread down into its two major component parts and read those component parts together. Are you all ready, friends? Here is this week's spread. Friends, you saw those two beautiful decks, right? We've got the Tilduc Tarot above, and we've got another deck below. The 3 cards below are from an oracle deck called The Mystic Augur and Sage by Kelly Burton. And I don't know, can you tell why I decided to choose this oracle deck to match with the Tilduc Tarot? It's the color scheme is not the same, but there's a quality to the art of both of them that they don't reflect each other, they don't mirror each other, but there's a, I don't know, there's it's like they live in the same universe, if that makes sense. I don't know. Anyway, so we've got these 2 decks, and the tarot cards above are in what we all call a positional spread. So the first card is the significance, second is challenge and advice. And the challenge could be a positive challenge, something we want to attain, to succeed at, something we're reaching for. Or a negative challenge, something that is an obstacle or stands in our way. And then, yes, advice. Significance, challenge, advice. Now, the 3 cards below are actually 6 cards. Did you see that? There is a placeholder for each of the oracle cards, right? And I'll talk about those when we focus on the oracle cards of the spread, but there are 3 placeholder cards below, and above there are 3 oracle cards, and we'll use the combination of the placeholder and the oracle card to modify or add information to the tarot card above. Does that make sense? God, I hope that makes sense. If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not make sense, let me know in the comments below. I'll try better to explain it the next time I use this deck for us. Okay? So friends, we're going to read this spread. We'll look at the 3 tarot cards first, and I will show you the 3 tarot cards again so you can really get those images into your head, and we'll read them together. Here are the tarot cards right now. Friends, you saw from left to right we had the 2 of Wands, the 4 of Cups, and the Page of Swords. Could you read those titles on the cards? They're up at the top. Honestly, I love this deck. And I also have to be honest when I say that it's easier for me to read the titles on the cards when I'm reading them by taking a picture of them with my phone. Yeah, the images, the titles are much clearer in photograph than they are for me in person. But generally, I don't have trouble reading this deck, except for the court cards a little bit, because the minors and the majors are all really clear for me. The court cards, I really do need the titles on them. But we start off with the 2 of Wands. Right here it is, right there. The 2 of Wands. Lovely card. Love those 2 flowering plants, right? And they're plants that are in bloom. They haven't bloomed yet, but they are in bloom. You see that? I don't actually know what the flowers are, just saying, but they are flowers and they are blooming. And they're fiery, right? So we got that idea of fire, the fire suit of the Wands. And what is the 2 of Wands? It's a card for future planning, for progress, moving forward, like the blooming, right? Decisions needing to be made, and that was part of the Lenormand Spread of this week. Discovery and aspirations, right? Now, if we look at this card astrologically, and full disclosure, I do not use the Golden Dawn's astrological associations for tarot, unless I have to. If they're printed on the card, I will use them. if they're not printed on the card, I'm going to use the one that I learned first. Yeah? And I read astrology with the traditional planets and decans with triplicities, which means that for the Aries house, there are 3 decans. The first one being Mars, the second one being the Sun, and the third one being Jupiter. For Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Now, I'm not going to be putting Venus into Aries or Saturn into Aries, you know? I just don't do that. So, unless I have to, unless, like I said, unless the card prints it on the card and then I've got to read the card. But if it's not printed on the card, I'm not going to go that way. So, for me, the Two of Wands is what? It's the Leo decade of Aries, so we've got the fixed aspect of cardinal fire in this card. Yeah? We've also got the complement, it being the second decan of Aries. We've got a complement of Mars in Taurus, which is the next sign, right? So, what does that mean? And I'm really trying to practice more astrology with tarot as I'm doing these videos. So for me, the Sun in Aries is somebody who's impulsive, who is courageous, the lion, right? And competitive with a strong desire to achieve their goals. Now, Aries, it's just the first decade of Aries can be a little bit less fixed, right? I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, right? There are a lot of possibilities, and they're all exciting. Leo gives it a little bit more of a fixed quality to that, an attachment to getting this thing done. Will they get it done? Not so sure. Now, Mars in Taurus gives us a little bit of a different vibe, right? We've got the need for grounding and stability and a strong foundation in life. We need that base for Mars in Taurus, right? Which makes sense with the Two of Wands to me, because that's what the fixed quality of fire is. With the cardinal and the fixed together, we've got that need or the desire for doing the thing, but needing grounding and needing to make choices and clarification, so that we're, instead of all those different things that Aries is interested in, that we make the choice of the things that we want to do. Now, we haven't started doing them yet, but we're there in the planning stage, and we're in the clarification stage and the getting ready to make progress stage. Yeah? And that seemed to me to be the general quality of the Lenormand spread that we had. In a more positive, future-oriented expression of that spread. Yeah? Now, the next card we have here is the Four of Cups. And what is the Four of Cups? You see the card here. We got these four looking like German steins on a mantle piece, right? On the mantle of a fireplace. Lovely card. Four of Cups is turning our attention inward, right? Away from the external distractions. And remember, this is the place for the challenge. So let's discern here. Is this a positive challenge or a negative challenge? Is it something we want to attain or something that's standing in our way? Meditation might be part of this card here. Introspection, contemplation. There's also the negative side of apathy and ennui. And if we look at both of these aspects, I think that they represent both the positive and the negative challenge before us. The negative challenge is we might start feeling a lack of energy. We might start feeling that ennui. And some reevaluation might be called for. And that reevaluation might ask for of us some introspection, some discernment, some contemplation and reflection on who we are and where it is that we want to go. And if you recall, the Lenormand Spread told us that we've got this key here within us. And so to find that key, maybe the Four of Cups is telling us to look within. Now, astrologically, for me, the Four of Cups is Jupiter in Scorpio. Now, that which would give us the second decanate, another second decanate of a fixed sign. So we've got what do we have? Scorpio is fixed. Jupiter, which is the planet for Pisces, is mutable. So we've got the mutable aspect of fixed water here. Yeah, the fixedness is a little stubborn, but the mutable wants to get things taken care of so that we can move on to the next thing, right? And Jupiter's expansive, whereas Scorpio is crystalline, right? We also, because this is the second decadent, we've got another Mars here. We've got Mars in Libra, right? Mars is the planet of both Scorpio and of Aries. So we've got Mars showing up in both, in the complements. So what does that mean? So for the Jupiter aspect of Scorpio, we've got deep, inquisitive, and determined attitudes here. Now we want to look within. We want to find our clarity. And there's the Scorpio nature of us also is calling us for our determination to do that work. The Mars in Libra, on the other hand, is asking us to be tolerant of ourselves and others. Be okay with where we are and where other people are, right? We can be assertive, but we can also be cooperative, right? We can assert, this is what I want, this is what I think is right, and cooperate with other people as well. And have a balanced temperament. We're asked for all of these things, which is a little bit challenging perhaps for us right now, which is why this is the challenge for us. This is what we want to accomplish. We want to look within, and we want to be certain about how we want to be in the world and what we want to do in the world, but we don't want to do it in an antagonistic way. We want to be cooperative and balanced. Yeah? That's the challenge. Without falling back and into ennui and apathy. So what's the advice? The advice is here in the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is the servant of the Queen of Swords, which would be, the Queen of Swords would be Libra, right? Yes, I think so, Libra. So the Page of Swords serves the Queen of Swords, serves Libra. And remember, we just had Mars in Libra. Interesting. So the Page of Swords, the advice is to new ideas. Curiosity. Now, what do we see in this card? We see an outdoor, maybe garden, what is that? An outdoor garden decoration, right? There's the wall. We see a creature there, maybe a dog, I guess. What do you see in this card? Let me know in the description below. But we do see an outdoor scene that is supposed to remind us of the airiness of the Page of Swords, but also the groundedness of the page, being the earth of air, right? So new ideas, curiosity, inquisitiveness, the thirst for knowledge. They can be ambitious. They can be a bit of a spy. I don't think we want to go there. But we want to ask questions. We want to be open to new learning. We want to be actively in search of new ideas and new ways of talking of things. We want our curiosity to be active, both with our introspection and examining where we're going and what we're doing. Does that make sense? That seems to be a pretty good, more positive recap of the Lenormand Spread that we had this week. Do you agree? I hope you do. Now let me show you those 3 cards below. Let's look at those oracle cards right now. Isn't this a beautiful oracle deck? And I've landed on a way that I like to use this oracle. Yeah? There are 3 cards in the deck. One for the mystic, one for the augur, and one for the sage. And I've decided the way I'm going to use this deck is I lay each one of those cards in position as placeholders. And then I shuffle the deck and I lay responses to each one of those prompts, as you will. I use the mystic, augur, and sage as prompts. And what is the mystic? The mystic is the one that engages in magic. They're the ones who alter their actions and strengthen their capacities in order to influence outcomes. Yeah? They change how they do things, and they improve how they can do things to influence the outcomes that they want to get. That makes sense, right? The augur looks for signs. Yeah, looks for signs around in the universe. And they develop intuition and observations to understand life challenges, to understand the things that might be challenging to them, which is interesting because this is under the challenges portion of a significance, challenge, advice kind of spread. And then the third card, the sage, which is under the advice portion, makes sense to me, represents the one who has the stories and the secrets, which is why they're able to give advice. They explore books and legends, using them as metaphors for the current situation. So the sage looks at tradition, uses that information to give advice. And so the 3 cards we had giving over the mystic, the augur, and the sage were symbolic, reference, the summon, and succeed and adapt. And so that's where we'll start off with the one underneath the 2 of Wands, which was this card, symbolic reference. Right? It's a lovely card. You see the symbols there? You see that we have the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail, right? And right behind the snake eating its tail, the Ouroboros, we've got a Carduceus, right? So what does that mean? It means studying symbols and symbolic reference will help us. Symbols help us to assimilate concepts and enrich our growth. Even if there is a disconnect between what we know and what we see, our knowledge will be broadened. So the situation, which was about future planning and progress with the 2 of Wands, right? And introspection, being courageous, being focused, the need for grounding. The way for us to adapt and get the both what? The capacity and to do the actions that will influence the outcomes. The way to do that is to study symbols, to learn. What does this mean? What does that mean? Right? Because remember, part of our spread for this week in the Lenormand was that on our mind we want to find a clear path. And the way to find a clear path, which would be indicated in the Two of Wands, right, would be to study the symbols, to look at the signs around us, to incorporate that information within us, to allow that information to cause our growth, which we got that growth indicated in the tree in the Lenormand Spread as well, if you recall, right? And then below the challenge, now I don't know, I'm not sure how I'm going to present these oracle cards to you here, up in the side. But I don't know if you noticed this, but there are planetary symbols at the very top of all three of these cards, the Mystic, the Augur, and the Sage. The Mystic is the solar card, which was right underneath the Fire card of the Two of Wands, which I thought was interesting. That's the active card, right? What are we doing? The symbol on this center card, which is underneath the Challenge card, which was underneath the Four of Cups of Water card, and the symbol for the Augur is the Moon, right? The Moon, which is a planet related to water and the tides of the earth, right? And the symbol for, or the planet for, the Sage card, which was under the Page of Swords, was a symbol for earth. And we know that earth and air, the swords, they are elementally ill-dignified, they fight with each other, but the page is earth of air. So that pageness of the earth of air is amplified by the earth of the sage. Does that make sense? So let's get back to the summon card on the Augur. So the challenge. Now, underneath the Four of Cups, which was discernment, it was looking within, meditation, contemplation, avoiding apathy, avoiding ennui, right? Being determined, being tolerant and assertive, being cooperative and balanced. All of those things, we've got the summon card. Now, how do we develop our intuition and our learning to observe? We do that by the summon card right here. Yeah, it's up there already. Which tells us what? You see this wonderful elk here, right? Tells us to seek our own strength rather than taking it from others. We don't want to attack the weak, and we want to avoid attack with both pride and skill. Yeah, so we don't want to go after the weaker people around us, which are easy prey, you might say, right? We don't want to, punch down. We want to maintain our pride and our skill. And this card also tells us that if we see a stag in life or in our dreams, it's a good omen. It tells us if we see things around us that remind us of stags, like the antlers of stags, we want to take those as a sign, and to be aware of our surroundings and be aware of possible danger. So how do we look for and develop our intuition? We want to do it by seeking our own strength, by being sure we don't go on the attack. And remember, on the Four of Cups, we were reminded we want to be assertive yet tolerant, right? We want to be cooperative. So we've got this potential, I think, challenge of both ennui and maybe a tendency to overcompensate by attacking. We don't want to do any of that. That's the challenge. Rather, we want to look within, and we want to look outside of ourselves for signs and symbols that will inform us and help us grow and know more. And then, as the augur beneath the Page of Swords, the inquisitive one, the curious one, we have this card, which is the advice, right, of the sage who has the stories, who learns from traditions, and is able to give advice. We have the succeed and adapt card, which is a seahorse, beautiful seahorse, right? Who can extend and contract their tail. So the question is, can we adapt and contribute to the diversity of surroundings? We don't need to create waves. Again, we got that caution, don't make waves. But we can still move forward without making waves, right? Our success is harmonizing with others and integrating. That's how we are going to succeed. Harmony and integration. Partnerships can help us here too. We want to carry others to the finish line. And carrying others to the finish line will get us there too. So we want to go together. And we do want to do that. That's how we embody our curiosity and our thirst for knowledge, is by learning to adapt and to harmonize with others and to integrate with others. Not losing ourselves in others. Remember, we're the ones helping to bring them to the finish line. We're not going to do that by losing ourselves. By losing ourselves or by losing ourselves, right? We maintain ourselves and we help others as we harmonize with them and we integrate with them, we move together to the finish line. Which increases our strength and increases our understanding and knowledge and helps the Page of Swords aspect of this spread that will help us to accomplish what the Lenormand Spread this week was indicating and what the Two of Wands is indicating for us, as well as the Four of Cups. Right? That's how we do it. Not making waves. Helping other people. Integrating with them. And whereas in the past couple of weeks it seemed like we wanted to be removed from them, now it's time to come back, I guess. Does that make sense? If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments below. This is a really intriguing spread. I think I'm going to continue using this set of cards next week as well, and maybe for the rest of this lunar cycle. We shall see. So friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.